yang ninggalin aku.
In a quiet household, horror begins when Momo is suddenly possessed by a vengeful spirit that speaks through her, blaming her siblings of abandonment. Terror quickly spreads as Anga, Jojo, and Nindi are each claimed by the curse through a single touch. Soon, their house transforms into a living nightmare with no way out. The scene shifts to a few days earlier. Anga calls his siblings Jojo, Nindi, and Momo to finally go through with their long-delayed trip back to their hometown. Nindi is hesitant at first but eventually agrees. Later, Anga messages their other sister, Sofi, informing her that they will arrive the next day. That evening, over dinner, their father Sena asks Sofi about her siblings' arrival, and she confirms they will reach by noon. Soon after, a man named Ujang arrives, pleading for Sena's help as Mila has been possessed again. Sena immediately goes to assist and confronts the spirit, which seeks his help and claims that it did not take its own life, but was murdered. After a tense confrontation, Sena drives the spirit away and Mila regains consciousness. The next day, Sofi is busy cleaning the yard when she is about to check who it is when a car suddenly honks. It is her siblings arriving. Sena happily welcomes his children and invites them to eat. As Momo, Nindi, and Sofi chat, Momo points to the doll on the bed and asks Sofi if she still sleeps with it. Sofi replies that the doll is still her favorite. Nindi then apologizes to Sofi for leaving behind the doll she bought for her at Anga's house. A flashback reveals their childhood, where a group of bullies tries to take Sofi's doll. Anga and Jojo step in to protect her, leading to a heated fight after the bullies mock Sofi for being a crybaby. In the struggle, her doll gets torn. Later, Nindi mends it and gives Sofi a bracelet, calling it a lucky charm for protection. The scene shifts to a warm family dinner. 4 years have passed since the siblings moved to the city, making this their first time being together again. Sena checks on all his children and gently advises Sofi to go with her siblings if she wants to live in Jakarta. Later that night, Anga surprises Sofi with a new cell phone, bringing her great joy since her old one is already broken. The next morning, as the family eats breakfast, Anga admits that he misses their late mother. He suggests visiting the waterfall where they used to spend time together as children, and everyone agrees. As they prepare to leave, Jojo sees their old car parked outside, still wrapped in a car cover. He suggests using it instead of Anga's car. Though hesitant, everyone eventually gets in. In the rush, Anga unknowingly drops his car keys from his pocket. As the car drives away, as they travel along the road, Jojo notices that everyone in the car is quiet. He tries to lighten the mood, but Anga snaps at him to quit fooling around and focus on driving. Moments later, Jojo realizes that the car's brakes are not working. He panics, but the others think he is only joking. The road slopes downhill, sending the car racing forward uncontrollably until it overturns. The siblings are left badly injured. Jojo is the first to free himself, then helps Anga, Momo, and Nindi get out. Gasoline leaks and ignites the car, and before Sofi can be rescued, it suddenly explodes. Anga wakes up in shock and hurriedly wakes Jojo, asking if everything was just a nightmare. They rush to the next room and find Nindi, Momo, and Sena sitting in eerie silence. When Anga asks about Sofi, his father urges him to stay strong and accept it as fate. Momo finally confirms the truth. Sofi is dead. Jojo asks if they were in an accident, but instead of answering, Sena begs them not to leave the house and promises to handle everything. Once their father is gone, Nindi suddenly speaks up and blames Jojo for the accident. Jojo keeps apologizing as Nindi also turns her anger on Anga and Momo. Soon after, Sofi's old cell phone rings from inside the closet. Anga answers.
Kalian ninggalin aku.
He drops the phone in fear. Later, outside the house, Anga tries to comfort Jojo, who admits he feels responsible for Sofi's death. Anga urges him not to be too hard on himself. Unnoticed by them, a woman in white watches the house from afar. Meanwhile, Nindi hears Sofi calling her. Terrified, she rushes to tell Momo, leaving her confused. At the same time, Jojo enters the bathroom when something suddenly drips onto his face. He screams in fear, and when asked what happened, he can only utter Sofi's name. Disturbed by the strange events, they decide to sleep together in one room. But Sofi's presence lingers. Someone seems to sweep the yard, the lights flicker, she appears lying beside Nindi, and even materializes right in front of Anga. When Anga steps out and returns, the lights are normal again. Momo tells Nindi to return to her own bed, and Anga finally drifts back to sleep. The next morning, Anga notices that both Jojo and Nindi have fever, so Momo decides to make soup for breakfast. While chopping ingredients, the faucet suddenly turns on by itself, startling her and causing a small injury. She approaches the cupboard. Momo is left confused. Outside, the woman in white approaches Anga. She introduces herself as Madame Rose, points to her home, and asks if they have already seen Sofi. Claiming she knows what happened, she offers to explain everything and invites Anga to her house to reveal the full story. Momo suddenly calls out to Anga, saying the food is ready. When Anga turns around, Madame Rose has disappeared without a trace. Concerned, Anga asks his siblings if he should go outside to look for their father, but Nindi reminds them of Sina's warning not to leave the house and urges them to stay put. Nindi and Jojo argue after she accuses him of being a burden to the family. Hurt and angry, Jojo reveals that he has been sacrificing his school funds to support Anga's education, and working part-time to help the family financially as a Quran teacher's income is not enough. He explains that despite not being blood-related, he still considers them family, having been raised with love by their foster parents. Anga apologizes to Jojo for not realizing he had sacrificed his studies to support the family. Jojo reassures him not to worry, and admits he never truly wanted to continue studying anyway. Jojo still feels guilty about his argument with Nindi, and Anga advises him to wait until she calms down before apologizing. Later, Anga decides to look for their father, with Momo joining him. However, he realizes his car keys are missing. They were left in their father's car. Momo suggests they simply take a taxi bus into town instead. Anga and Momo try to flag down a passing taxi bus, but it speeds past without stopping. Moments later, Anga spots Sofi. They follow her into the woods until night falls. Momo trips and briefly sees Sofi's bracelet on a wooden fence, but it mysteriously disappears when she looks again. Meanwhile, Sofi suddenly appears in front of Anga. Terror grips him, leaving him nearly paralyzed as he finally sees her face. He spins around and runs. Soon, he finds Momo again, and together they flee, desperate to escape the place. Nindi and Jojo also experience strange events. While Jojo is trying to apologize, Nindi gives no response, leaving him confused. He is then shocked when the real Nindi suddenly appears, explaining that she had only stepped out to get medicine. That night, Nindi combs her hair in front of the mirror while talking to Jojo. She suddenly freezes in the middle of what she is doing when Anga and Momo return home to rest, but are soon drawn to music coming from Madame Rose's house. As they approach, the door opens on its own, and Madame Rose warmly invites them inside. She reveals that Sofi's soul is restless because they have not fully accepted what happened or properly said goodbye. She offers to help them communicate with Sofi, giving specific instructions. One must face west, another must hold Sofi's most treasured possession, and together they must recite a prayer. When they return home, Momo warns Anga not to listen to Madame Rose, dismissing her words as meaningless. When Anga asks if she has experienced anything strange, Momo firmly denies it, insisting that what he's seeing is just his imagination. However, when she is left alone, Sofi suddenly appears before her. Drawn to the presence, Momo follows. She bolts in fear. When they reunite, Anga insists that they try to communicate with Sofi to understand what she wants, but Momo immediately objects, warning him not to trust Madame Rose. Anga argues that they have no other choice. Terrified and overwhelmed, Nindi and Momo decide to leave the house. A sudden knock echoes through the house. It's Madame Rose. She reminds Anga to follow her instructions, but the siblings, unsettled by her presence, refuse to let her in. Before leaving, Madame Rose delivers a chilling warning. They still don't fully understand what truly happened. The night is plagued by a series of unsettling events as Sophie's presence is felt everywhere, as if she is trying to send a message. Tension rises among the siblings as Anga insists on communicating with her, while the others believe the entity haunting them is not Sophie, but something far more sinister. Frustrated, Anga decides to call out to Sophie using the ritual Madame Rose taught him. Soon, they begin to hear people praying inside their house, even though no one is there. Outside, however, people gather and offer comfort to Abba Sena. Anga continues the ritual, calling out to Sophie. Suddenly, the room begins to shake violently. Without warning, Momo collapses, and Sophie's spirit takes over her body. Speaking through Momo, she cries in anguish, demanding to know why her siblings left her behind. Anga, Nindi, and Jojo panic. When Anga grabs Momo, his body suddenly convulses. One by one, Nindi and Jojo begin convulsing as well, as if something unseen is taking hold of them. Then, the truth is revealed. Time rewinds to the day of the accident. The crash leaves them all severely injured, but only Sophie survives. The others die before the car explodes. In the middle of the chaos, a devastated Sophie calls their father, telling him what has happened. When the four of them awaken, Nindi asks their father if they are truly dead. Sena tells them they must accept what has happened because it is their fate no matter how much they try to escape it. Moments later, Sophie arrives. Sena gently urges her to let go so her siblings can finally be at peace. When Sophie holds her father's hand, she sees the spirits of her siblings slowly beginning to fade. Through tears, she asks for their forgiveness, and they say their final goodbyes to one another. As time passes, Sophie and Sena visit the waterfalls. Madame Rose appears there as well, and asks Sophie to tell Sena that she did not take her own life, but was murdered. After delivering this message, Madame Rose vanishes. Sena then invites Sophie to return home, and the scene comes to an end.